And frankly, I want to thank each and every one of you for what you do in your respective states on behalf of all of us and people locally to ensure that everyone can get out and enjoy themselves. And I'm going to talk about something a little bit different, so you're going to take on a little trip for a few minutes and think maybe about your parks and recreation areas in a bit different. Because when we talk about conservation, and I should point out I'm a lifelong conservationist. I'm a planting tropical ecologist by training. I spent 16 years as a vice president for South American conservation for the Nature Conservancy before I took over it many years ago at American Hiking Society. So I really have something very important to say about conservation. But when we talk about conservation, we oftentimes envision pristine landscapes, sweeping vistas. We also think about endangered species, mountain gorillas, the polar bear, as I think everyone knows is in the forefront, or even whales. As I mentioned, I spent a good chunk of my career up to now dedicated to protecting large land and seascapes. And without a doubt, there are a significant number of very important and interesting plants and animals that need to be protected in large landscapes. This is serious, important conservation work, and it needs to continue and flourish. But what I'm here today to share with you and to underscore is this is not enough. What we need to do is to address the challenge and the notion that nature is out there, that it's somewhere else away from us, or that to have a wilderness experience, we must be far away from people in an unaltered habitat in order to have a quality wilderness or outdoor experience. When we talk about the frontier, in the early days of America, the frontier was first the Shenandoah Valley, Shenandoah Mountains, or certain other barriers, then became the plains in the Midwest, and that the wild frontier barrier continued to move as pioneers as we colonized our own country. These were both physical and psychological barriers with untold struggles, fear of the unknown, danger from animals. Today, with 8 out of 10 Americans living in urban and suburban environments, our society is faced with a new frontier. And that's how we can venture out from our built environment and reconnect with nature and overcome the unsubstantiated fear of crime in wilderness areas or parks in general, the varied cultural perceptions of nature and immigrant populations, which of course, as we know, is growing in importance, and the perceived threats from every kind of creature, both human and non-human, that we see in the parks. The fact is we need to act now to conserve and restore our nation's local parks and recreation areas, as well as create new ones so that nearby nature does not disappear. I'm going to come back to that theme. If we act together and succeed, then nearby nature can become a central organizing principle of modern life. And I want to plant that in your minds here. Because some think that in building cities, there is no room for nature. That nature was, again, out there, somewhere else. The challenge now is that in the larger built environment, that is our neighborhoods, suburbs, cities, and countryside, many people, as we know, fear nature. Fear going out day or night in our parks. And oftentimes suffer from what has been called place blindness. And that's by not seeing nature in the nearby. Seeing nature that's outside your door. It's in your local parks. And what's happened to us in society today is that the near is the new far. I want you to think about that because of this idea of frontier. We actually have nature right in front of us, but the near is now really the new far. I want you to consider that. Through the conservation of plants and animals found in our local parks, we can rebuild the all-important human-nature connection that nurtures those natural experiences and it generates the love of nature and of place. It's our genuine human behavior that, as you, and I'm sure you've heard this, we care for what we love and we love what we know. So conserving nature in parks, the work that you do, not only protects biodiversity, the plants and animals we find in our parks, but create a more livable city, and in livable cities is the preservation of the wild. I take, for example, and I'm sure many of you have been to Central Park in New York City. It's 843 acres. has over 24,000 different trees, not species, but trees planted there, and 275 species of birds. But what's even more astounding, there are over 2,100 species of plants found in Central Park, in the heart of New York City. That's more than all plant species found in Great Britain. Fact is, when Central Park was built, it was built as a respite, as a sanctuary for the workers in New York City to get them out of that tremendous industrial plight that they had. And guess what? The park is working today because of the plants and animals that are there. And that's very exciting. I mean, you all have very many examples of that. The conservation of our local parks and recreation areas benefit us in myriad ways, and I just want to outline a few for you. According to a recent University of Vermont study, the return on investment from protecting open space for public benefit from ecological or ecosystem services such as water production and filtration, climate change protection, and other aspects of conserving public open space is estimated, and I believe this is conservative, to be a return on investment of about 100 to 1 for $1, and that's pretty extraordinary. There's also a direct and positive impact of parks, open space, and nearby nature on property values. Parks help, in fact, contribute to nature-focused, economically valuable neighborhoods. Just a couple quick examples. In Denver, nearly 50% of all the residents said they would say they will pay more to live near a green belt or a park. And that trend continues to grow, and we see it all across the country. In San Francisco, the estimated gross increase in residential property value due to proximity to Golden Gate Park is estimated somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion. Not surprising, some of you may in fact even live there. Building on Richard's comments about the importance of the quality of life and health that our local parks provide, it's astounding now that we have clinical evidence, as I think many of you are aware, that humans living in landscapes that lack trees or other natural features undergo patterns of social, psychological, and even physical breakdown that are strikingly similar to those observed in animals that have been deprived of their natural habitat in zoos, cages, and other containment. In addition, scientists at the University of Sheffield in the United Kingdom have found that the more species that live in a park of any size, a city, regional park, national park, you name it, that the greater the number of species of plants and animals found in a park of any size, the greater the psychological benefits to human beings. Maintaining biodiversity, the number of plants and animals found in an area, is important, not only for the conservation of nature, but also to enhance the quality of life for city residents. So it's not just a feel-good effort to go out and protect the critters, the plants and animals. It is a core human need that we have. And this is to really, truly create livable communities. What I want to underscore as an ecologist and also as a recreation leader, that species diversity, diversity of plants and animals we find in parks and in our communities, like cultural diversity, in fact, enrich our lives and give us hope. And these are important messages I encourage you to take to the Hill or just into your backyards. In addition, from an economic side, accessible, well-conserved local parks contribute considerably to the estimated $730 billion outdoor recreation economy in America. At American Hiking Society, we are a member of the Outdoor Industry Association, so we work with the manufacturers and producers of all the cool gear that everybody likes to use, and there's been a lot of recreation and economic studies. This is an astounding statistic for us. In addition, our local parks also offer the public, as we know, access to safe, affordable, and healthy ways to experience and appreciate nature. And one of the things, of course, you're here on the Hill now, and that we're so busy and actively supporting are, of course, the transportation bill is front and center right now. You wouldn't think maybe that an organization like mine or conservation-minded groups would be interested in the transportation bill, yet the RTP program and safe, these all matter for livable communities and for the conservation of nature. Recreation, in fact, has always been one of the best ways that we can foster a conservation ethic. And if we are to conserve natural resources that sustain us, we must reach the people where they live and provide city and suburban park experiences that matter. It's our opinion, and while we focus on, as an organization, and I have certainly in my whole career looked at what we call backcountry, more rural or wilderness conditions for hiking, recreating, and just experiencing nature, one does not need to travel to the backcountry to experience the richness and mystery of the natural world. And I want to underscore that your local parks, the parks that you're in charge of, bring nature to the urban doorstep. And through conservation and improved access of local parks, we can excite, educate, recruit, and train the next generation of conservationists and recreation planners. So with that, I know, keeping an eye on time, I'll stop, and I know we'll have some questions. So thank you, and again, thank you for all we're doing. Do I have one more minute?
Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to see something, since we do have a minute, and Representative Blumenauer is not able to show. I have a question for everybody. What do you think, it's not a city park, but what do you think is the most biologically diverse park or unit, within the national park system? I have a cool Princeton Tech headlamp in my pocket for the winter. The most biologically diverse, the most number of plant and animal species in any of the 395 or 98 units of the national park system. Any guesses?
The mall.
The mall, no. It's a good guess, though. It's interesting. You're thinking outside the box.
Yosemite.
Say?
Yosemite.
No?
Yellowstone.
No?
It's too obvious. It's got to be something.
It's too obvious. You're right. You might want to think about what my organization does. I'll give you a hint.
Yeah,
No! Who said that first?